I had a family reunion Sunday, and I told my crew, my clan, that what I said may not be the truth, so that applies tonight too, okay? We also, really, if it wasn't for the Dollar Foundation, this couldn't happen. The Creative Alliance, which we are under, the museum, and also the Historical Society, Ron McNair Life Center. They are so gracious in giving us this place every time we ask for it. Dale Smith is across the street, and he's got more exhibits. So y'all need to come over there and eat while we can't talk today. We got more snacks for you to eat tonight also. And Zach Blankenship, all I have to do is just run my mouth. He sets up, he does everything for us. And of course, y'all. If it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't be doing this tonight. Anybody born at the Whitehead, we are at to a point where we added more names to the list upstairs. We've added about 15 more people. Movers and shakers, we're going to be talking about personalities tonight, more so than events. And at the end, we need some questions and some answers. Questions, I don't know if I can give you the answers or not, but we'll try. Each time we have a new slogan, and the new slogan in the early 1920s was, "Opportunity awaits for you." And this is the way West Main Street looked in the 1920s. This is what's called a Sanborn map of 1920. Lake City had a population of about 2,000. Now, the pink areas are brick buildings, signified brick buildings. And then the yellow ones are wooden structures. So basically, if you go down Main Street and Church Street, what you see? The same thing you would have seen in the 1920s. This is West Main Street. The only thing different in this particular map is the blue one, which was concrete. And that is where, across the street from the Mexican restaurant. What are those little stores? Yeah, those. Okay. And in 1920, we had a mid-shift fire department, and the way you sound out an alarm was to fire a shotgun to alert the people to come. Mr. Whitehead, Mr. William H. Whitehead, which is Mr. Edgar Whitehead, and Miss Rachel Henry. His father was the mayor, and in 1925, I'll have to tell you that next time. Population in Lake City in 1920 was 16,000. And it, increased by 500 people. From 1910 to 1920, we had 500 people to come in. That's 50% of the population that was in Lake City in 1910. Also, Chief of Police was Wagstaff, and he was also Chief of Police and the garbage collector. Okay, so he played a double role. Mr. A.M. Parker, which is Miss Julia Parker's husband. Dr. Neesmith, which is Miss Catherine Truelock's father. H.E. McElveen was Mr. Jim McElveen's father. Mr. Truelock, Mr. Severance. S.W. Gowdy, which is, again, Trey Gowdy's great-grandfather. And J.O. Fowler, which was Marion Fowler's great-grandfather. We had the blue laws. Y'all remember the blue laws? Where you couldn't buy anything on Sunday. Except unless you could buy medicine. You could go to the M&D drugstore and buy medicine. And funeral supplies. You know, back in the 20s, actually, you could buy a casket, the clothing, and all, and have your funeral at home. I can remember one of my great aunts dying, and they laid her up on a cooling board. You know what a cooling board is? It's a flat board. They prepared the body, dressed the body, and put a cloth over it. And this happened to be in the summertime. My daddy told me this story, so I don't know if it's the truth or not. But anyway, they were sitting up all night long. Well, it happened that a cat slipped under the sheet. And they looked, and they saw the cat going from head to the toe, and they just scattered. They went, opened the doors and windows and everything else out the house. Okay. The only reason why you could buy gasoline was the mail. And I can remember, as a small boy, we couldn't buy much of anything on Sunday. Okay? June, July, and August, the dogs had to be muzzled because of the fact is they called it the mad dog season because of rabies. Would you believe this slide? No liberty for jailbirds. It was moved and it was carried that no prisoner be allowed the liberty of going home at night, but to be confined to the jail. That sounds like what? Andy Griffith and Otis. This actually happened in Lake City in 1922. W. Flowers. Mr. W. Lee is right here. And they claim that Mr. W. Lee went bankrupt 2 or 3 times before he struck it rich. He opened up his company with $10,000 in 1922. You know, we take for granted that we can cut on the TV and watch what we want to watch and all this stuff. In 1922, we had the only radio there was. Mr. Cook, which became Mr. Willie Cook, which became mayor of Lake City in the 1950s, purchased a wireless outfit. And they listened to the stock market, the great speeches in Washington, the Opera House in New York City, grand operas, church services in Pittsburgh, and then they installed a 100-foot aerial at the American Legion Hut. Not the American Legion Hut down on Johnsonville Highway, but in town. So it was a big thing. And people would gather, all the men would gather to listen to the baseball games especially. Baines, and I can't imagine this. Now, that's a big old boxcar, isn't it? Every day, Lake City and Scranton filled up 12 to 15 carloads of beans to take to the north. Every day of that season. And that's amazing if you can just think about that. 15 carloads of beans. We got ranch, the first branch of Lake City, bank branch. We had the Bank of Lake City, Farmers and Merchants Bank. Now, the Bank of Lake City went down. Farmers and Merchants, and then the People's Bank, which was located at Hotel Biltmore. And I'll tell you where Hotel Biltmore is in a few minutes. And then we had the Commercial Bank, which was the largest bank in Florence County in the 1920s. Lake City CocaCola Bottling Plant, $25,000 in 1922. If you look, this is Ackline Avenue. This is John Street. This is where the Bancroft apartments are. So you go down the street, and right here at the Lake City Electric Company, you would find the warehouse where the Coca-Cola bottling plant was. As youngsters, we used to take BBs and shoot the bottles. And if I'd have known each bottle I shot was worth $300, I would have never, ever shot one. Farmers and Merchant, Farmers Hardware Company of Lake City, Mr. Jack Dazzell, which became mayor of Lake City. He's the guy with the hat. He's the guy with the hat on. This building is where Earl Holloway's furniture company was, and now where Larry Hawkins' homeowner's carpet place is. They had everything. They had bicycle for delivery. They had fishing lines. They had everything that imaginable people would want. Why go to Florence when you had everything? Hotel de Dog. Look this over. The AM meat came from Connecticut by way of South Boston, Virginia, down to Lake City, and opened up Hotel de Dog. Advertisement, 1922, veterinary surgeon and dentist. How many of you would like to have followed by a dog? Huh? Okay. We'll go anywhere to operate. My dad said that he walked in the 30s, walked into Hotel de Dog. My daddy was all I mean, he was curious about every little thing. And he walked in there, and Dr. Meeks working on a dog while he was eating his lunch. So, you know, we've had some characters in this town.
Where was it? Yeah.
Huh?
Where was it?
You know where the fish market is, Ward's Fish Market, in that area? Nine to 7, Lake City Beach, Lake City. We got people like Lizzie Gravely playing basketball, Miss Helen Jonah, which is Miss Sue King's mama. Miss Lil McAveen was Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter, tell me, Mr. Carter. Mr. Clinton Carter's mother. Mr. Clinton Carter's mother. Sophia Flowers, which was Mr. W. Flowers' sister. Okay? 19 to 7. Ashton Williams. Remember we talked about A.H. Williams that really started the ball rolling. This is his son. Okay? He born in 1891. He went to the University of South Carolina, graduated in 1912. Went to Georgetown Law School, 1915. Came back to Lake City, private office, private practice, 1916. Became a councilman. 1921-22, state legislature. 1923-26, state senator. And then he was elevated to a federal judge under Harry Truman. A guy from Lake City, a federal judge. That's amazing, isn't it? We've had some mighty important people that came out of this town. Class of 1922. Anybody do anybody do? I'll get it out. Anyone knows anybody on this list? All right. Mary Cockfield was Mary Cromer, which was Roy Cromer's mother. Mr. Raymond Askins was Harry Askins' father. Mr. Harold Gowdy was Trey Gowdy's grandfather. Sid Rittenbaker, Mr. Ralston Whitlock. All these were important people in this town. For the first time in the class of 1922, we had more boys than girls. 18. They graduated in 1922. Now this is a tough bunch of folks. Would you believe? Lake City was not first known as the Panthers, but was known as the Swamp Rabbits. The Swamp Rabbits. Later on they changed the name, but they were known as the Swamp Rabbits. Okay? It was the first time they organized a football team. You had people like Mr. Raymond Askins. You had people like J.W. Floyd, which was Wesley's grandfather. No, Wesley's father. Ralston Whitlock, Mr. Kleist Dudley. So we had a crew of hard-nosed football players. Look at those helmets and no shoulder pads. The new bridge, $40,000. You know, when we go to Florence, we pass by the bridge right beside the railroad track. Well, in 1923, they moved the road from, you know where Elam is, on 301. There used to be a covered bridge right there. And that's the only way you could go to Florence. Okay? So they built this bridge beside the Atlantic Coastline Railroad for $40,000. Kleist Douglas, he's my favorite. Okay? He was a pitcher for the Lake City High School. He played professional baseball from 1929 to 1933. He was the second player and the first pitcher to hit a home run on the first pitch he ever saw. He pitched for the Brooklyn Robins, which became known as the Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he pitched against the New York Yankees. And I don't know if I told you the story before. I'm going to repeat it again. I asked Mr. Kleist Douglas if he ever pitched against the Bambino, Babe Ruth. He said, yeah, it was an inner city game before the season started. And he said he threw a curve and he strike one. He wound up and he threw a fastball. The next pitch, I don't know if I ought to do this or not, but I'm going to. The hitter hit it so hard that the first baseman jumped up, tried to catch the ball. The ball went in his glove and ended in right field. And Kleist Douglas was lost the game. But this is the story of Kleist Douglas. And I tell you something else. I hope y'all forget this when we get into the 30s. He built the pavilion at the beach. Class of 1923. Miss Lizzie Gravely, which is Mr. Randy Gravely's mother. Vivian Cash is not a lady, Sam. He's a man. Okay? He lived behind the school. Ellen Joyner, valedictorian, Susie King's mother. Beth Rittenbaker, our fourth grade teacher. And if I can find the book, I'll tell you a story about Miss Beth Rittenbaker, but I can't find the book right now. So.
Vivian was one tough guy.
No, yeah. And then Mr. Kleist Douglas. In 1923, they came up with a way of parking. You know, we're talking about a roundabout. In 1923, they came up with a new way of parking. From the Presbyterian Church, which is down the street, to Miss Joe Askins' store, which would be where Ward's shoe store was. Everybody had to park 45 degrees. On the other side of the street, which I have a difficult parallel parking. Okay, and this lasted for a while. But that was the thing. I mean, Lake City wasn't any different from another little town in America. The DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, started. And some of these ladies were yes ma'am ladies. You didn't cross them at all. Miss Maud Singletary was the regent, and we had lots more other ladies of the time. Mrs. M.A. Epps gave $13,000 in a will to the Thornwell Orphanage in Clinton and the Conemack Orphanage in Greenwood. Sounds like a what, Baptist? Mm-hmm. That's James Vernon Epps's aunt. Okay. Calder Park, selling lots, 1923. Mr. Carter, can you tell us where Calder Park was?
Right over there for the line coffee.
It starts on Main Street
Yeah, it started on Main Street.
and went back to Lions Park in the swamp.
It was part of the line part of the farm.
Right. And the school was part of Carter's Park. Talking about the school in a minute. Getty Drugs, which is right here on the corner. Mr. T.A. Getty, who's that? Was a Andrew, no, not Andrew, but Mayor Lawrence. Mayor Lawrence's father, and then Mr. C.F., which is Mr. Clifford Getty's father. They ran a drugstore at the corner of Ackline and Main. Ever guess when this church, this house was built? Kind of beautiful, isn't it? It still is beautiful. It's across the street from the Methodist Church. It was built in 1923. It's Sam Mac's uncle. Then we had your other uncle that built the house that Randy Pierce. And then your house was built in 26. College. I never thought that these old folks in town ever went to college. You know? But we got Helen Joyner, we got Lizzie Gravely, Helen Daniel, and we called her, can I say it? Bulldog Daniel. Marvin Lynch, his grandson was the registrar at Francis Marion University. Raymond Askins, Mr. Rouson Whitlock, Kleist Dudley, Jamie Cockfield, which was Pam and Bim's father. So all these folks went to college. The school across the street. No, what happened was he went to college first and then he was drafted. Okay.
Where did he go to college? Where did he go to college?
USC. And he had a pretty good record at USC too. How many of you inspects your home when you build it. All right. Mr. Baines, he was chief of the fire department. He notified the city council that the school across the street, which was been torn down, the walls weren't right. So they met with the contractor, supposed to be 13 inches thick, that will support a second story. They made them tear it down and start all over again. How many of you would have done that? And that was on the cost of the contractor. And that's the school that we tore down because we had extra money, state money. It was opened December the 27th, 1923. It cost $65,000, and Mr. Truelock, Mr. J.P. Truelock, which was Jimmy Truelock's father, was the principal. Paving the roads. Before 1925, we had dirt roads. So we started thinking about paving the roads in town. So we'll do that next time. Next one is going to be November the 27th at the Thanksgiving right here. And thank y'all for coming. If you've got any questions, let me know. No. All right. Thank y'all.